Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredible biological logistics of the human body, specifically focusing on how it transports essential life forces. Think of your body as a massive, bustling metropolis. For that city to survive, it needs a relentlessly efficient transport system, moving supplies in and taking waste out every single second of your life.
But before we actually map out this whole system, I want you to consider a quick question just to truly appreciate the marvel of engineering we are about to explore. What organ auto-generates its own electrical signals to pump 5 liters of fluid every single minute, without you even having to think about it? Keep that in the back of your mind as we go.
So, here is our agenda for today. We'll start with the fluids of life, move on to the pumping engine, break down the cardiac cycle, explore those double circulation highways, and finally, look at circulatory system disorders.
All right, Section 1, the fluids of life, or, as I like to call it, the payload.
You know, blood isn't just some uniform red liquid. It's actually a highly specialized connective tissue. It consists of a fluid matrix, this straw-colored kind of viscous liquid we call plasma, which makes up about 55% of the volume. The remaining 45%? Well, those are the formed elements, your red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets.
Let's focus on those red blood cells for a second, the erythrocytes. What's absolutely brilliant about their evolutionary design is that they are completely nucleus-free. Why? To maximize cargo space for oxygen-carrying hemoglobin. It's basically like a delivery truck ripping out the passenger seats just to fit more boxes. They work tirelessly for an average lifespan of 120 days before they are broken down and recycled in the spleen, which, fun fact, is biologically known as the graveyard of red blood cells.
Now, if we're talking transfusions, the absolutely crucial factor in blood compatibility comes down to the presence or absence of specific surface antigens on those red blood cells alongside natural antibodies floating around in the plasma. This dynamic right here dictates the ABO grouping system. It strictly determines who can safely receive blood without causing severe, potentially fatal clumping. It's a biological lock and key.
And this brings us to the universal donor. Because people with Group O blood lack those surface A and B antigens entirely, there's literally nothing to trigger an immune attack in the recipient's body. This makes them the ultimate universal donors. It's just a fantastic example of biological logistics at play.
So blood is the main transport, right? But we really have to contrast it with lymph. See, as blood passes through your tissue capillaries, water and small substances leak out to form interstitial fluid. When the lymphatic system collects this, we call it lymph. It's this vital, colorless tissue fluid loaded with specialized lymphocytes that handle your immune responses. And surprisingly enough, it even helps carry absorbed fats right from your intestines. Okay, so now that we know exactly what's flowing through the body, we have to ask how the body actually pumps all this fluid around so efficiently. Seriously, how does a single muscular fist effectively route both oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor fluid at the exact same time without ever mixing them?
Which brings us right to Section 2, the pumping engine, a look at the anatomy of the heart.
Unlike simpler organisms, say certain arthropods, that use an open system where blood just sort of sloshes around in open cavities, we humans utilize a highly advantageous closed circulatory system. In our bodies, fluid flow is precisely and powerfully regulated. It circulates strictly through this vast closed network of specialized vessels.
Let's actually conceptually build this engine. It's an organ derived from the mesoderm layer, roughly the size of your clenched fist, safely housed in a double-walled bag called the pericardium. Inside, it features 4 distinct chambers, 2 smaller upper atria for receiving blood, and 2 massive lower ventricles for pumping it out. Crucially, it relies on one-way tricuspid and bicuspid, or mitral, valves to strictly prevent backflow. And overseeing the whole operation, a biological pacemaker called the sinoatrial node, or SAN.
Now, you might have noticed the term myogenic. Because it has this specialized nodal tissue, the human heart literally auto-generates its own rhythmic contractions. It doesn't even need an external signal from your brain to tell it to beat. The impulse is born right there, intrinsically, in the heart muscle itself. Pretty amazing.
So, knowing the parts is one thing, but how does this engine actually function in real time to fire up and create that steady heartbeat?
Let's get into the mechanics in Section 3, the cardiac cycle, exploring the rhythm.
This entire cycle takes just 0.8 seconds. It kicks off in joint diastole, meaning everything is completely relaxed, allowing blood to just passively pour into the ventricles. Then, that SAN fires. This triggers atrial systole, which squeezes the atria and tops off ventricular filling by about 30%.
Finally, we hit ventricular systole. The ventricles contract powerfully, slamming those intake valves shut and blasting roughly 70 milliliters of blood per beat straight out into the circulatory highways.
Just to clarify the biological jargon here, since you'll hear it a lot, whenever we use the word systole, we are referring directly to this absolutely crucial contraction phase of the heart chambers. Diastole means relaxation, systole means contraction. Simple as that.
And you know those familiar pip sounds you hear on a hospital monitor? Well, they represent an electrocardiogram, or ECG. Each specific wave on that graph perfectly maps to the internal electrical excitations we just talked about. The P wave, that's the atria depolarizing, or firing up. The sharp QRS complex is the massive electrical spike triggering the ventricles to contract. And the T wave represents the ventricles repolarizing, resetting back to normal. Any deviation in these shapes instantly tells a doctor if something is wrong.
Moving right along to Section 4, double circulation highways, mapping out the routes. Our biology utilizes this incredibly elegant double circulation system. First, you have the pulmonary circulation. Think of it as a specialized loop. The right side of the heart sends oxygen-poor blood exclusively to the lungs to grab fresh oxygen and returns it to the left atrium. Once there, the systemic circulation takes over. The left ventricle violently pumps that freshly oxygenated blood out to nourish every single tissue in our bustling metropolis of a body. Eventually, that depleted blood makes its way back to the right atrium to start the whole loop over again. They operate simultaneously, ensuring the rich and poor fluids never, ever mix.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, circulatory system disorders, or what happens when the system malfunctions.
Given the immense, non-stop workload of the heart, structural issues can obviously have devastating effects on our body's logistics. Take hypertension or high blood pressure consistently over 140/90. That puts tremendous strain on the entire transit system. Then there's coronary artery disease, or CAD. This happens when the literal plumbing of the heart narrows due to calcium, fat, and cholesterol deposits. If those narrowed pipes fail to deliver enough oxygen to the heart muscle itself, it results in the acute chest pain known as angina. And over time, if the primary pump simply weakens and can't meet the body's demands, we see heart failure causing massive congestion in organs like the lungs.
Now, this is a really vital distinction to make here. Heart failure simply means the pump is ineffective and slow. That is completely different from a sudden electrical stop, which is cardiac arrest, and it's different from sudden muscle death due to a blocked vessel, which is a heart attack. Using the precise terminology really helps us understand exactly which part of the engine is breaking down.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really hope this leaves you with an awe-inspiring appreciation for the microscopic mechanical miracles happening inside you every single second. Think about it. Every single minute, your myogenic heart auto-generates signals to pump 5 liters of blood through a complex, double-loop highway system just to keep you alive. It kind of makes you wonder, what other silent miracles is your body performing right now while you simply sit and listen?